Hello, super relaxed club fantasy people. Or, as relaxed as one can be in the middle of a global pandemic. So, super quite stressed, to be perfectly honest, fantasy people. I'm Gareth Hanrahan, the author of The Gutter Bear and Shadow Saint. Both out-forward books. They're high fantasy, grimdark, steampunk, alchemy punk, tales of gods and thieves and knives and stabbings and things exploding. And I am going to read a chapter from The Gutter Prayer. It's in fact the interlude, which happens halfway through the book, being an interlude. And if it seems strange and borderline incomprehensible, then that's perfectly fine, because that's how it feels to the reader as well, as much is explained later on. So, here we go. Arla lopes across the blasted valley in 7 league strides. Where she steps, the scorched earth explodes with life, sprouting razor grass and vampire trees in profusion. She sniffs the air again, tasting the salt of the ocean and the fainter stench of alchemical engines. Someone is coming. Intruders who seek to defile the temples of her goddess self, murder the worshippers who are her life's blood. Symbiosis. They are the body of the goddess, and she is their soul. Arla turns east towards the coast. Her blessing is a scant green veil on a scorched landscape, a burial shroud, and she weeps. Where her tears fall, murderous naiads appear. For a moment, they are her daughters, beautiful and joyous, their watery bodies glittering naked in the sunlight as they leap in search of vanished rivers. When they cannot find their homes, they fall into the mud and arise in their war forms as creatures of muck and barbed wire, and follow in her wake. This is what they have done to me, Arla thinks, or has thought for her, through her. Her mind long ago ceased to be solely hers. She is a saint, a channel for her goddess to manifest in the mortal world, to take revenge for the wounds inflicted by her enemies. Once, in Arla's grandmother's time, the goddess blessed the valley with good harvests and kind weather, and the people of the valley were thankful. They offered her sacrifices of fish and song, and she was pleased, and made her joy known to the young women she chose to be her saints and her priestesses. Then the deep gods of Ishmir took the seas away to fight in their wars. The thieves of Haith occupied the valley and took cruel tribute. Then the nameless monsters from afar laid siege to the folk of Haith, driving them away in their turn, and then they turned on the folk of the valley. As Arla recites her litany of hate, she bleeds as fresh cuts open on her warped flesh, a millionth ritual scarification. Her mortal flesh is testament to the righteous anger of the divine. And in the next year, when the goddess blessed the valley with a good harvest, up sprang a crop of spears in the cornfield, and the orchards bore grenades. The kind weather was forged into a single day of searing sunlight, a blazing javelin that concentrated all the heats of the goddess's bright springs and long sultry summers and bountiful autumns into a flash of heat that cut through the battleships of Haith, melting their metal hulls. Grey days from the discernible season filled the gaps in time. The people of the valley were thankful, but had no fish to sacrifice, and all their songs were sad. The goddess loved them still, but she was angry and hurt by the works of the invaders. She made her anger and her pain known to the young women she chose to be her saints and her warriors. As Arla approaches the shore, and the remains of her holy town of Grenna, she releases her war form. The goddess partially withdraws, lifting the awful reality-warping pressure that maintained the bloated shape of the saint. Arla shrinks down, becoming something closer to the mortal woman she once was. She notes, and the goddess swallows her fear and pain the instant she notes it, that her right arm is gone again. A cannon blast in the last skirmish with the Haithi, she vaguely recalls. No matter. Already the green buds of spring are sprouting at her shoulder, and they will grow into new flesh. There is not a scrap of her that has not been reborn in this war. Her worshippers, the goddess's worshippers, Arla reminds herself, crowd around her as she enters the city. The land can no longer grow food to feed them, but the goddess has not forgotten them. As she walks through the crowd, the starving Bob reaches out to touch the hem of her robe. A single touch is enough to revivify the contents of their stomachs. A few seeds or half-digested leaves, or, for the lucky, a little scrap of meat all spread back to life. Others have not eaten in so long there is little for the goddess's magic to work on. But there's always something to be blessed and nurtured, some foreign body or intestinal flora. Bellies swell, and the people retch joyfully. Not all survive her kindness. Some burst from within as a cornucopia erupts inside them. Tall stalks of corn sprout from their stomachs and push out their throats and their eye sockets. Apples and berries fill their mouths, choking them. They vomit wine. Killed by fruitful blessings, they stumble after Arla's her entourage, or spread out into the crowd to feed those who could not reach the saint, her bountiful dead. Her generals are waiting for her in the highest tower. They prostrate themselves before her as she enters. Arla opens her mouth. Today her voice is the buzzing of honeybees in the forest glade, the lowing of cattle in the pastures, and the rushing chime of the mountain streams. None of these things exist in the blasted war zone of the valley, but the pattern of the goddess is derived from them, and from that pattern they can be brought back into the mortal world. When the gods' war is won and the whole world is valley, there will be honeybees and fat cows and dripping water again. Now, though, the war. Who trespasses in my valley? She asks. For she the goddess, not Saint Arla, there must be a distinction. For the goddess can be omniscient or omnipotent, but she cannot be both simultaneously. She needs her mortals to sustain her with worship, but also to watch for her when she concentrates her power, or to fight for her when she divides her attention. A small flotilla of warships. They're not flying any flag, mistress, but they are the men of Haith, she declares. Does the goddess know this, or merely assume it? The ships are at sea, and she is the goddess of the valley. A local deity for minor people, for now. That is why her loyal servants labour on the borders of her domain, rolling huge marker stones out across the no-god's land north and south. The valley grows a little every day, and so does she. The goddess swallowed Arla's moment of doubt. They are Haithy. But Haith is in retreat, thinks one of her generals. They cannot be Haithy. Thinks it, doesn't say it, but he is in the presence of a goddess in her wrath. She can read his thought before it reaches his tongue. His lying tongue becomes a snake. His hair, snakes. His intestines, snakes. She takes his chair at the conference table, brushing away the dust and shed skin from the ruin of the thing that was a man, and begins to weave a long whip from the snakes. They are the men of Haith, she says, and I shall wade out and destroy them before they can hurt my children. More doubt bubbled through some of her generals. The Haithi invaders at the very edge of her domain, where her power is weakest. Arla is already injured. She remembers her missing arm, and realises she's weaving snakes with one mortal hand and one arm made of grapevines and thorns. The Haithi have their own divine monsters, as well as terrible alchemical weapons and legions of seasoned soldiers, both living and undead. Haith is a byword for discipline, for martial tradition. Arla lets a little more of the goddess flow into her. She is transfigured. Some doubts vanish. Others become snakes. What does it matter if this saint dies? Arla's one woman. There are more, aren't there? Hundreds, maybe thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Many is enough of a reckoning for the gods, and gods cannot die. At worst, she could be diminished if all her worshippers are slain, but she has her redoubts and her refuges. She has laid up stocks of divine power, and she can birth new worshippers from the soil of her valley if needs be. The folk of Haith will not take her land. Her weapon made, Arla rises. She leaves the tower, leaves the town, walks down the dry bed of the long-dead river towards the wreckage of the sea. She becomes the war form again, grows gigantic. She puts her power into a whip of snakes, and they swell and thrash and hiss, lethal venom dripping from 1,000 fangs. She chants a new litany of war. Her words are written on the land, mosses sprouting the scorched rock in the shape of letters. Priests creep after her in her wake, scavenging revelations from the hurricane of her passage. They will gather the dead and bury them according to her way, sinking them with holy stones in the bogs of the lower valley, so their souls will rot and ferment into the wine that sustains her. The men of Haith hide in ironclad ships, So she gives her snakes the ability to poison steel with their bite, to rot it as fast as dead flesh. The men of hate have alchemical guns, so she girds herself in armour of river stone and mud, impenetrable. The men of hate are doughty and numerous, but they are mortal, and in this moment, in this war form, Arla isn't. The goddess sustains her. No mortal weapon can destroy her. She wades to what was once the ocean. She can see the ships on the horizon. They are so far away, she has to swim instead of wade. Mud naiads scout ahead of her, each one clad in its own impenetrable, hermetically sealed shell. It would not be good for her daughters to mingle with these tainted former seas. The ships do not fire as she approaches. They are so small, like children's toys floating in a puddle, that she laughs. She doesn't need to call upon her blazing solid summer javelin, or sustain her mud knives through the deeps. This whip will be more than enough to deal with these little invaders. One slash would be enough to cleave any of their little gunboats in two. Are they lost, she wonders? Refugees from some defeated fleet who took shelter in her safe harbour? Once, she might have welcomed those who sought the sanctuary of the valley's bosom, but she can no longer be merciful. The pattern of the goddess no longer admits the possibility of mercy. Trespassers in her valley must die. Let their screaming shades carry word of her wrath back to whatever gods claim them. The lead ship turns to her. There's darkness within it. A bomb. Arla braced herself for the pain, but it's unimaginably worse than she expects. She is flayed, unravelled, seared. This is it, she thinks, the time for death. Even her saintly form can endure this blast. The blessing of the goddess cannot sustain her. She feels her limbs cracking and burning, her eyes melting. She dies. Then the blast wave passes over her, and Arla is still alive. Arla hits the water hard, and nearly passes out from the shock. She struggles to reach the surface, thrashing her legs and her one arm. She's lost the war form. She's just herself now, just human. Clumps of mud from dissolving naiads rush past her. Everything hurts like she's on fire. Goddess, help me, she prays. But there's no answer. She can't reach the surface, it's too far away. She gasps, swallows water, chokes, she's drowning. A shadow passes over her as the lead gunboat draws near. Faces peer down at her. They're too far away to see who they are, these witnesses to her death. For the first time in her life, Arla is alone as she dies. And there you go. That was from The Gutter Prayer by me. And if there are any questions about the series or anything else, then comment away and I shall return at some point to answer them. And thank you so much for your time and attention. Time and attention even. And have a good day, evening, morning, whatever time you happen to watch this video. And thanks to the Super Relaxed Fantasy Club for having me on. And good night.